Hello, and welcome to Reasons to Watch. And today we are going to do a new film on Netflix, starring Gary Oldman, directed by David Fincher, also starring Amanda Seyfried. Can you guess what it is yet? It is Mank. Mank is based on a true story about the writer Mankiewicz, who wrote Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane is one of the best films ever made, and I'm a massive fan of black and white films. So when I saw the trailer to this a few months back, or a few weeks back, I saw it was in black and white. And David Fincher, the director of Fight Club and Seven and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, amongst other things, he's a fan of the genre. So I was very intrigued to see what he'd do. And I've seen it before, liked it, and so I'm suggesting reasons why you should watch it too. Now, firstly, if you're a fan of black and white films, you definitely want to watch this, because it kind of takes you back to the golden age of Hollywood. So, the opening credits. In the 1940, at the tender age of 24, Orson Welles was lured to Hollywood by a struggling RKO Pictures with the contract of befitting his formidable storytelling talents. So RKO was a film studio, and it was struggling, as it says. Orson Welles was, I believe, a playwright and an actor, as well as a director, kind of a wonder kid, kind of a David Fincher of his generation, who would come in and to save the studio. But he needed, obviously, a story, and he hired a certain Mankiewicz to do it. So let's begin. So it also dictates that he was given total autonomy. You don't need to have seen Citizen Kane to appreciate the story, although it would allow you to appreciate this film more if you were able to watch Citizen Kane. As I say, starts out kind of with this old kind of titles that you would see back in like 20th Century Fox, back in the 1940s, RKO. So we have Amanda Seyfried, Lily Collins, Arliss Howard, and Tom Pelphrey. I'll be honest with you, all I recognise is Lily Collins and Amanda Seyfried. Although I do recognise Tuppence Middleton and Tom Burke, who is brilliant as Orson Welles. The rest I don't know. But there's some good serious turns. So Louis B. Mayer and Charles Dance are fantastic as well. So we start out on a black and white, kind of a dusty road, car coming towards the screen as well. Now, I'm a massive fan of David Fincher's work, normally. He normally showcases fantastic storytelling ability with great camera angles. He's a massive fan of doing things on film. It wouldn't surprise me if I looked it up that this was probably shot on film as well. Screenplay done by Jack Fincher. I wonder, is Jack Fincher David Fincher's brother? Let's find out while I Google it. It's an interesting thing to find out. So they all appear in the 1940s to a ranch. A secluded ranch in the middle of nowhere. Hank is kind of banged up. We'll find out later on he's banged up and his leg's in a cast because he's got into a car accident. But he's a bit of a drunk. Genius writer, but a bit of a drunk. And a gambler.
Set you up out here so you wouldn't feel quite so confined. The ladies will scandalize the neighborhood by occupying both bedrooms. I will be staying in town at a bucolic spa called, if you can believe it, Shoulder Arms. I will do my editing there. As you know, Fraulein Frieda is not only a nurse and physical therapist. She studied nutrition back in the old country. Ja, liebes Fräulein.
Jawohl, Herr Hausmann.
a dry house. The owner of the ranch doesn't permit alcohol. But you're from Pennsylvania. You're no doubt used to it. Saved by the proverbial bell. Set it here, please. Careful. Careful. Thank you. Observe.
So, David Fincher's dad, Jack Fincher, wrote the script in the 1990s and was planning to film it back in '97 after he did The Game. The Game is a film, I believe, with Michael Douglas and Sean Penn. Well worth a look. Not his greatest.
Well, since you like working nights, Rita here runs on London time. Her husband is one of our bold lads in the RAF.
So this is literally a setup. So the basic premise is he has 2 to 3 months, 2.5 months, to write a 120-page script to the liking of Orson Welles. It's meant to be stupendous while he's on the mend. And while this is all going on, while he's writing or struggling to write because he needs alcohol and he's trying to recuperate, and it's very difficult for him to recuperate in all that heat, he's having flashbacks. And the flashbacks inspire the story of Citizen Kane. I'm looking at it again. Little details, such as camera angles away, the way he keeps it, everything. Sorry, the camera angles away, he's keeping everything. So Gary Oldman, who's playing Mank, is on the bed, and the support holder keeps on shaking just above the edge of screen.
Hello. Houseman tells me we have you just where we want you.
Lucky me.
How's the leg?
5 bones connected to the hip bone.
Excellent. Ready and willing to hunt the great white whale?
Just call me Ahab.
I mean,
I understand.
if you've heard Orson Welles, his accent, tone, is pretty fantastic, to be fair to you. It almost makes me believe that they use
60 days, and then we can noodle.
Nothing like a good
his used Orson Welles' voice, because it's too good just to be an imitation. It's that good.
Final everything. There are no studio notes. We'll have no one but ourselves to blame.
60 days and a noodle.
Gotta run. I'm doing tests for heart.
And the dialogue very much
Less a joke, Conrad.
speaks to this kind of 90s, 40s rat-a-tat kind of dialogue that they used to have back in the 1940s. These hard-boiled, dramas, noirs, such as the Maltese Vulcan and The Outlaw, Jane Russell, Howard Hughes. I like how it fades out. It fades out, again, like it would do in a normal 90s, 40s film where it's kind of the blackness comes out. And I love the film's use of shadows and light. Most of black and white films have to have this idea of creating a sense of mood and a sense of danger and suspense. But the thing is that they did, because they didn't have colour back then, or at the beginning, is use light and shadow. And we kind of lost that with the advent of various things such as colour photography. Because there's no need to create a sense of depth, and there's no need to create a sense of suspense because it's all there. Yeah, I think there's an oversaturation of just lighting, making everything look pretty. Whereas someone like David Fincher and another person, not all cinematographers are like that, just overlighting, but certain ones that do it fantastically well is Roger Deakins. Roger Deakins did Blade Runner 2049, Sicario. He's done a whole host of films, a lot of them with Denis Villeneuve. or Dennis Villeneuve, depending on how you want to pronounce it, who's going to do Dune. It's coming out next year. He's not very happy it's coming out on the HBO Max, but it's coming out. But yeah, Roger Deakins is a cinematographer there, and he's got a fantastic use of using shadow to profile someone, so you see the light on one side of the face, but just darkness on one other. And in colour, it looks fantastic. And in black and white. Like I said, cinematographer on here, and I know David Fincher's a fan of the genre and that period of filmmaking.
You know all kinds of things. Iambic pentameter, the words of the great poets. What about the way she signed it? Always Ethel. Can you beat that?
So there's another flashback there. We're just getting back to it. Just great use of shadows and light to create a sense of mood, which again kind of harks back to the period of where it's meant to be set, which is the 1940s. Now we're moving on to how Mank gets into a car crash and then ends up with a broken leg and kind of busted up.
I hate to tell you, anyone who can rub 3 words together and make a sentence.
Then we move again. Great use of non-linear storytelling, these kind of flashbacks, which is kind of in keeping with Citizen Kane. So we're moving on to writers heading out from New York theatre land to become Hollywood writers, especially when the talkies came in. So a lot of the films for the 1940s and the 1920s and earlier were all silent pictures. Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, that type of thing. And then they became talkies, so people had to write dialogue.
These are high stakes.
But this reveals Mank as a gambler on everything, and that becomes his kind of downfall. Not just the alcohol, it's the gambling. It's his 2 Achilles heels.
Falling leaf to hit the ground. Had to go to management to cover it.
For $5?
Again,
5,000.
because I've been on a lot of film sets, I can see the smoke that is used to kind of create that depth, that discoloration in the scene. And like I say, in the black and white pictures, because you have to focus on the light and the shadow, it really pops. Really pops.
Mr. Kaufman? George is fine.
It really is a fantastic achievement. I mean, it is.
Sydney or SJ? He takes what he gets. The great Charles McCarthy. Good to see you again.
Fantastically shot.
I
mean, I've seen quite a few films this year. I'll probably go through quite a few of them over this Christmas period. The ones that I've seen, the ones that I like, and the ones I would suggest you all see. But there's not many shot as well as this, to be fair to you. Even Tenet, as beautiful as it's shot.
Have you been laid yet? Do you have to think about that?
Tenet is beautifully shot, shall I say. It's just not a fantastic film. Again, I don't want to get into being negative. It's just not going to be one of those ones that you watch. I'll suggest that you watch. Too timey-wimey for me.
Just in time for a story.
Sorry, Chris. But
Once more onto the breach. Breach hell unto the wire. Without a net. Keep your mouth shut and watch us.
yeah,
Okay.
it's well worth looking at. Fantastic turn from Gary Oldman. Definitely nomination for Best Actor. But there's some good supporting acts as well. Unfortunately, not the women. The women are pretty two-dimensional. I mean, and Amanda Seyfried, not sure. She's got interesting depth to the character. Lily Collins,
72 hours. Tell us what you have so far.
fantastic for just revealing character. Not really good at doing much else. The men,
In the beginning,
unfortunately, best lines. His wife, again, not much there. So let's put it this way: it's not one for a fantastic one for the ladies to get stuck into, because there's not much for the female co-stars, except I would say Amanda Seyfried. But it's well worth watching from a cinematographer's point of view. For anybody who's a fan of Citizen Kane and wants just an idea of the struggles the writer had, even if you've already probably read his autobiography or biographies, it's nice to see Gary Oldman
But
on
every
top
full
form.
moon, the monster awakens and
Really
raises
is on top form.
unholy
Great
hell
dialogue.
with the villagers.
Excellently delivered.
Give it a
Believe that he's a drunkard.
men in leather shorts,
Believe it.
gals, and tattered peasant lads.
And that's it. I don't want to go too much into it because I kind of want to do a little bit of a tease and encourage you to watch it. Yes, please watch Mank. It is available now on Netflix here in the UK, starring Gary Oldman, Lily Collins, Amanda Seyfried, amongst a host of others, including Charles Dance. Directed by David Fincher, and as we found out just now, written by his father back in the 90s. And he's giving him credit. Enjoy. Take care. Until next time, have a fantastic Christmas and New Year. There will be more videos coming up about other things that you can watch during this interesting time. Take care. Good night.